Now, after right action, there's right work. Right work means a proper occupation or a proper way to make a living. According to the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, it says to seek clothing, food, and other items with proper paths, and refraining from all evil methods is called right work or right livelihood. Therefore, we can say that right work means not doing anything or causing anyone else to do anything that violates the precepts of Buddhism. So right work should not harm anybody or encourage others to do harm to anyone else. According to the Buddha's teachings, he gave a few guidelines to what a proper work or right work may represent. And he said that Buddhists should not operate a gambling house, a brothel, or a slaughterhouse, or other professions that kill. These are the very, very basic principles of right work. In other words, right work should be work that adheres to the Buddha's teachings on compassion, wisdom, and the middle path, and so on. If any work that you may be doing runs counter to the Dharma, for example, any work that kills other lives, any work that makes other people unhappy, any work that shows a lack of compassion and wisdom, then we need to learn to change the things that we do for a living, or even change jobs if necessary. But of course, we must not rush into changes. We have to make sure that proper considerations are given to families, your employers, employees, and those affected by our decisions. These are the very guidelines to how we can decide the kind of work or career that we're pursuing to ensure that we are practicing right work. Now, after disciplining our mind, speech, and behavior, as well as the work that we do, we need to learn to make right progress. From what we have said so far, we realize that right views plus right thoughts plus right speech plus right work equals right progress. And right progress means changing for the better, becoming wiser, calmer, and morally correct. In other words, to make right progress, we have to try and learn more Buddhism every day in order to get to know ourselves that little much better every day. This is just like a treasure which requires time to extract. If you do not apply constant progress, you will not be able to extract the treasure even if you know where it is. And according to Treatise on the Perfection of Great Wisdom, there are 4 ways for us to make right progress. And they are the following. Number 1, to give rise to goodness where there is none. In other words, it means to bring good into existence. Number 2, to foster goodness where there is some. In other words, we need to develop existing good. Number 3, not to give rise to evil where there is none. In other words, we need to prevent evil from arising. Number 4, we need to stop evil where there is some. In other words, this means to put an end to existing evil. Therefore, these 4 ways to make progress are the very basic principles which we need to follow as we make progress towards enlightenment and a better as well as a happier life. What comes after right progress? There's right mind or right mindfulness. This means a true mind, a mind that is clear and pure, as well as a mind that is not obscured by the 3 poisons. To maintain a right mind or right mindfulness means looking deeply into ourselves to uncover our Buddha nature. In other words, it's about finding and dwelling deep within the inherent purity of the Buddha mind that lies within you. Right mindfulness is the outcome of the first 6 of the Eightfold Noble Paths. And basically, when we talk about right mindfulness, it means being mindful of every moment. That's as simple as it can be. Our delusions and habits as well as modes of thinking have caused us to perceive this world with chaotic and scattered mind. And what right mind does is it will enable us to simply observe our surroundings without judging them. And this way we will be able to also observe our thoughts and feelings without being controlled by them. Therefore, right mindfulness enables us to prevent and even eliminate unwholesome thoughts and actions, and give us time to nurture and practice wholesome ones. With right mindfulness, we take control of ourselves and also take responsibility of our own thoughts, speech, and action. Right mindfulness will help us fight against this delusive reasoning. For example, false distinctions of duality, of self and others, of good and bad, of loss and gain, as well as life and death. Things are the way they should be, and what we can do is bring more goodness into this world. This is what right mindfulness should include. And the Buddha also taught 4 basic contemplations to help us maintain right mind. First of all, it's a contemplation of uncleanness. Second, it's a contemplation of suffering. Thirdly, it's a contemplation of impermanence. And fourthly, it's a contemplation of no self-nature. Together, it will help us relinquish our attachment to our body and to help us realize that suffering is inevitable in this world. And thirdly, to recognize the fact that all things are impermanent and nothing we conceive will remain. And finally, we'll realize the absence of a permanent and unchanging self-nature. So with these 4 basic contemplations, we will be able to maintain a right mind. Just as what the Diamond Sutra has said, all conditioned dharmas are like dreams, like delusions, like bubbles, like shadows, like dew, like lightning, and all of them should be contemplated this way. That's how we should maintain a right mind. And last but not least, we come to right concentration. As we understand that Buddhist practice is based on what we said before, wisdom, discipline, and meditation. And before, we said that right speech plus right action, right work, and right progress, all of these 4 help us improve morally. While right views, right thought, and right mind will help us become wiser. And now, right concentration will help us learn to and benefit from meditation. As calmness and peace from meditation are foundations of Buddhist wisdom. Sometimes concentration is also known by the Sanskrit term samadhi, which means a profound state of concentration. So right concentration will require us to focus long and hard on the immutable truth of Buddhism, and that we discover the fullness of this truth in mental states that lie beyond language. This is what right concentration can help us do. And when the mind is steady, calm, and peaceful, delusions are less likely to arise. Therefore, basically, we can say that meditation and concentration help us to become healthier. It helps us attain calmness so that we can become better focused and feel a peace of mind. And we can also see clearly what enlightenment is. In other words, we'll open up our minds and allow the thought of truth to enter more easily and to turn from the ignorant into the enlightened. Fourthly, we will also be able to see how wonderful our inherent Buddha nature can be. And we will be able to also foster healthy and helpful social behavior. This is what right concentration can help us to do. And after talking about each of the 8 noble paths, we need to now talk a little bit about the understanding of the Noble Eightfold Paths. We have to understand that each of the Eightfold Paths is closely related to one another. Just like what the Abhidhamma Mahavibhasha Shastra says, right view leads to right thought. Right thought helps us attain right speech. Having right speech, we're able to attain right action. Having right action, we are able to attain right work. Right work is the start of right progress. Right progress leads to right mind. And right mind allows us to attain right concentration. Just like the 5 precepts, which are in fact one, we can even also see that there is no separation between the Eightfold Noble Paths. In other words, when we practice one of the Eightfold Noble Paths, we are in fact also practicing the other 7. And by doing so, when we practice one, we are also allowing ourselves to realize and analyze the rest of the 7, and so that we will be able to understand the remaining 7 much more easily. And when we look at this chart of the Eightfold Noble Paths, we'll realize that although one follows the other, we don't need to really stick rigidly to the order of practice. For a path means a teaching and practice that must be learned over time. Therefore, as we continue to practice all of these, each of the Eightfold Noble Paths, we need to make sure that we are aware of the fact that right view is most important, because it is the light of wisdom. It is the spiritual teacher who guides us in our cultivation and practice. It is like the eye that sees the path we walk on, and a compassion that helps us navigate. And it is also like a camera. Before a photo is taken, we need to adjust the light, distance, and shutter speed so that a clear and beautiful picture can be taken. Therefore, a Buddhist should possess right view and right understanding to enable him to see clearly the true picture of the universe, so that he will not develop wrongful and biased thoughts and actions. To sum up what we have said today, Dharma can be expressed in words, but it is never fully understood unless it is put into practice. Therefore, the Noble Eightfold Path acts like a guide to daily living that must be practiced and experienced within our daily lives. And whatever one thinks and contemplates should be coherent with the principle of the Dharma. This then will become right thought. And when we engage in a conversation with others, we should use kind words and be friendly so that other people will be filled with confidence, joy, and hope. This is right speech. And when our behavior corresponds to morality and virtue, we refrain from hurting others for our own benefits. We be charitable and offer our help to the needy. Actively do good and avoid evil, or remain calm and try to tackle problems with wisdom when faced with various difficulties. All of these are the practices of the Noble Eightfold Path in our daily lives. In conclusion, the Noble Eightfold Path consists of the essence of faith and ethics, and it is a gateway to Buddhahood. It is also a guideline that human beings should observe in their daily lives. And by observing the Noble Eightfold Path, we shall be able to eradicate ignorance and suffering, and eventually obtain a happy and pure life. This is the true ethical living in Buddhism. So this is something which all of us need to bear in mind. And to the end of this session, let's do a quick revision of the Noble Eightfold Paths, which consists of right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right work, right progress, right mind, and right concentration. And this provides the ultimate path for us to follow in order to find true happiness. Okay, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.